Gentlemen, we know that next season we're going to have a lot of local coaches in the Premiership, something that we all should be applauding and be very happy about. AmaZulu finally giving Ayanda Dlamini a contract to be the man in charge of AmaZulu. He did very well in the spell that he was given to be in charge of the team. And that also bodes very well for the fact that now, with Sundowns having shown the others that even though it's local, can still be good and better, that it can only buoy it and to be much better going forward for all the other teams.
Yeah, I think it's good. And you mustn't also forget, you have to congratulate Brandon Truto as well from Morocco Swallows. It's his first.
Oh yes.
It's also him, also, so there's a lot of newcomers. I think it's going to be exciting. I just hope that Ayanda will also think very hard of who he's going to take as his assistant, because that's going to play an important role. You're only as good as your assistant, I believe, as a head coach. So for me, it's exciting, and it's not also, the good thing about it is it's younger coaches, and it's less experienced coaches, which a lot of clubs even in Europe has shown that they're showing their faith in it. And I'm glad that AmaZulu is doing something like that, showing faith in the locals that understand their culture, and in not just bringing in a foreign coach from a Scandinavian country in Europe, understand culture. And it's good for AmaZulu to have a coach that understands the culture. AmaZulu's got a certain culture. They want to play attractive football. They even show now they've promoted 7 youngsters. They've brought back about 4 or 5 players that's been loaned out. They signed pre-contracts with 1 player from Jomo Cosmos. So they show that as now, for me, it's just to find a good balance. And your technical team is important, and it's proven. Kaizer Chiefs has proven that how your technical team can affect the players that you have. And I think with Ayanda being there, I can see positives. We'll obviously just have to see the type of football that they play. So yeah, I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see Morocco Swallows. I'm even excited to see Stellenbosch next season. I think they ended off well, and I'd like to see how they do. So yeah, it's exciting times, I think, for South African and for local coaches, definitely.
Yeah, nami nga-add phezulu point elisho epaqeda ukulisho. I think okwamanje it's so good to see ukubona ama-player actually ex-professional players actually coming up and being coaches. And I think now it's the right time for them ukuthi babonise nalama-player lamanye, because it will be easier to relate to them as they were past players as well. And ekunyukeni kwabo kuze babe coach, I think kuzobanikeza nabanye coach abaseza, because we need to grow as much as we can of younger coaches to come up into the big league. And I think also that with a good management and a technical team, also nabo kumele bafunde in terms of ukuthi lama team lawa ngaphezu kwabo benzani yini, what that is right. They need to take note, also expand also now if they can in the right way, ukuthi babe ne-technical team strong ezokwazi ukuthi ibe ifavor bona for iside labo. I know ukuthi kuzoba easy bona ukuthi kukhulume bakwazi ukuthi bakhulume nabadlali, because abadlali abaningi bayazi ukuthi labantu they've been there, they've done it, rather than uzoletha umuntu maybe ucoachwa ngaphandle and then you try to actually fit him in, and sometimes they don't actually relate.
In fact, before Velile comes in, we also have Dan Malisela and his team, STS Galaxy, that will be coming in. I mean, Owen Dagama did very well alongside Alan Freeze at Highlands Park. We have a question here, guys, before Velile comes in. I know Velile he wants to talk about this. You can see him smiling already. We have a question from Bonseni Mapumulo. He's asking a question. He's saying, what's going to happen to those players who already signed pre-contract with Bidwest Wits, as their contract will become invalid or not? Because now remember, the players who already signed pre-contract with Bidwest Wits. Now, as a player, you might not really want to be going to Toyando, for an example. But I know there are some of those who have been released by Wits who already signed contracts elsewhere. What happens to the incoming players? Do they leave with the team, or what happens?
Yeah, at the end of the day, as far as we know, is if a player is contracted to a club and he doesn't want to relocate, he doesn't have to. The downside is that then you obviously have to find yourself a club. For me, the bottom line is this, and it happened with me at Aces, and I was extremely unhappy that that Cape Town City bought Mpumalanga Black Aces, and I too, and even I was a Cape Town boy, but I didn't want to move back to Cape Town. But you are contracted to a certain degree, but you can also, you have that decision. But at the end of the day, bottom line is you're a professional footballer, and when you are an aspiring footballer, you know that you have to travel, even if it's up in the bush in Toyando. You signed up for that. So you didn't sign up to be in the lavish lifestyle of Gauteng or Cape Town or, where there's Uber and there's all these things. No, you signed up that I want to be a professional football. Wherever the club goes, you can go. That is the mentality that you must have. So for me about, I don't want to travel here or I don't. I mean, I have massive respect for somebody like Cole Alexander. He played for Polokwane, Cape Town boy. He survived. You can do it. So for me, as a professional, you must be able and understand the bottom line is you need to, if you want to be successful as a footballer in South Africa, you must be prepared to go those places. So, but to answer your question is if the player does not want to leave, the agent will also tell you he doesn't have to relocate with the club.
But
Brian, just if I can add on top of that what Shoaib just said, I think as a professional, as Shoaib is mentioning, it's equally important to actually take your contract very seriously, because your choices that you might make, they might not be favorable for you, because the team that you maybe might be going to or you want to go to, they don't need you at that team. So you might as well just fulfill the contract that you have. And as well, if you're going to take this career very seriously, remember, there might be a team maybe in Ethiopia that wants to sign you and it's a good contract. There might be a team in China. There might be a team in Turkey. So you're going to go to those countries, and then at the end of the day, you can't play. At the end of the day, you're a professional, and then you need to do your work. Like any other industry, whether it's rainy season or whatever, you just need to be prepared, because I think from a development standing point, all these dynamics come into play, whereby you know that you always move tournaments, you go overseas. So those exposure, they need to teach you this is your survival, and this is how you need to take this professionally serious.
I understand for a player who's been part of a team for a while, Velile, before you come in. But let's talk about, Spomseni is talking about those that signed pre-contracts. Remember now, you're talking about a player who was signed, probably signed by Gavin Hunt. He wanted to look at these players and reinforce certain departments. Now, there's a new coach who's coming up in a new team that you'll be relocating to. I mean, these players are already thinking, what happens to me? Because the guy that signed me doesn't want to go there. What happens to me now as a player?
Yeah.
Well,
I think what is important, according to the NSL handbook, and also as Shoaib was saying, is the entity buying the club is liable for all the assets which are there. In this case, the assets are the players, and anything that the buyer finds inside that entity that they've bought. So it then means that any contract that is binding, the new owners have to honor that contract. Unless,
that's correct.
Yes, unless the player doesn't want to move. If the player doesn't want to move, in terms of relocation, he cannot be forced to move. But as Shoaib says, he must then find himself a club. So in the case of, for instance, one of the players where I know where we are going, you're talking about Mkholoto Ngele. Ngele has signed a pre-contract with Bidvest earlier this season.
Yes.
You know, and he didn't finish. If you remember, in fact, yeah. So Ngele is now a Bidvest player because the pre-contract is also dated from the 1st of July, right?
Yes.
That's when normally the registration starts for the new season. So it means that he is due a signing on fee, right?
Yes.
From this new club. And
Yeah.
in any case, Ngele was playing for Leopards, who are almost in the same area as TTM.
Yeah.
So for him, I don't think it should be a big deal, because the new owners, they are liable. They have to honor the contracts which are there. You have a case of Lorenzo Godinho. He signed he signed for Bidvest earlier this season from Chiefs.
Yeah.
To complete the season, 6 months, with an option of a 2-year deal, right? And I understand the 2-year deal. I think it's over 3 million. I can't remember, but I think it's close to 2 million season. The deal is, can TTM afford that? We don't know. And even in terms of signing on fees, so if he doesn't want to relocate, and there's a team around Gauteng or somewhere where you'd like to go, that's why one of the challenges the TTM are going to have is that there are players who are not going to relocate, and they've already committed to other teams because they know that they're going to get their clearances. Because when a player doesn't want to go, you cannot even sell him. You have to give him his clearance, right? But also it then means that he also has to, I think he also has to forfeit. If maybe I don't know, sure, even in that case, is there then when you refuse to relocate, you get given your clearance, and then do you forfeit the amount of money which was left in your package?
Yes.
Yeah, no. Obviously, if, like, for example, I can use us as an example. So when I relocated to Cape Town City, because they bought all the players, like you said, so they owned all 14 players, and this was the 14 players that they wanted. If you don't have any other outstanding amounts and you don't want to relocate, you can get your clearance. Like Eddie Ngalo got his clearance.
Yeah.
The left back that went to Arrows, he was given his clearance, but he was still contracted. But your contract gets terminated. So you get your clearance, you don't get any money, you don't get any payouts. That is obviously the downside of it. But now, my only concern is, can the club just come and tell a player, maybe they don't potentially want the player? So I want to know, what if a club says, oh, I can't afford you, but they just actually don't want you? Do you understand? So then what happens? Do they have to pay you out? Do you get I think that is where your agent comes in, and now they maybe agree a settlement.
Yes, because okay. Mm-hmm. Because there,
yeah.
I think it will be unfair, because there, the player didn't say he doesn't want to relocate.
Yeah.
So if then it is the club which wants to terminate, then the clubs will have to negotiate, a settlement fee. Yeah.
So you wanted to say something?
Yeah. Again, I also think we can say TTM is having trouble in paying players. Now and again, with the incoming player, when we talk about affordability, as Velile has mentioned, isn't that going to pose another uncertainty on players, because they have a bad record of not paying their players as well?
This is a very important question. Very important question. And some people sometimes, when we talk about this, it's like we are anti-TTM, but this is just based on the history of the club. If you just look this season, how the situation of TTM, I remember there was a FIFA case against them, and I think they got a fine of $500,000, and they didn't have the money. They even ended up having to go to ask for an advance, from the PSL when that case came up against them. And now there's even a fresh case. I think it's Vladislav Heric who has taken them to FIFA again,
Yeah.
And
he hasn't been paid he apparently 7 months outstanding salary or something like that. Yeah.
You see,
7 months, if I'm not
yes,
mistaken.
exactly. And now I've just had some new developments as well. Even with how they got to get the Bidvest status as well. So it looks like something happened there internally at Bidvest, which led them to get the status in the manner in which they got it. I mean, a PSL status, you know, it goes for anything between 40 to 60 million rands, you know. But
sorry, Lily, but my next question is that when you so what is PSL doing now with regards to, for example, we're just using Tim Sukazi as example now for TS Galaxy. So he's applying to purchase Highlands Park, but now they say it first has to go through PSL. Now, does PSL not request your bank statement where they can say, okay, you can actually afford to pay those players, because isn't that supposed to be part of the approval for giving you a status?
yes,
you understand what I'm trying to ask?
I don't know, I understand you. I understand you 100%. And that's why the PSL, there's also a surety that has to be presented, you know. But if you look at how, because I asked this question to some of the people involved in these things recently, to say, now, okay, I see you want to buy, or people are buying, but there is a rule in the PSL handbook that says if you've been a club owner, right, in the league, you cannot buy a status within a period, or you cannot change ownership within a period of 12 months. But how, and relocate that club. But how many times we've seen that being bypassed by those who've been buying the status and move it at the same time? So if you remember, there's a press conference where the chairman was asked about this recently, and I was there. And one of the things he was saying, it was that, no, he knows that there's a trust. So now, you see, it's not Masala directly buying Bidvest Vets. Remember, his club is still operating. So they're buying through a trust. So they bypass those rules. And we've seen it a number of times happening in the league, where one would buy a status now. Okay, in the case of Cape Town City, it was different because joint committees had been out of football in terms of owning a club for some time. You know, so
as well.
Yes. So the 12 months, but now, even in terms of structuring the deal on who is buying, so you bypass that. But also there's the issue of surety as well, that you have to submit, and then the league will have to satisfy themselves that, okay, you've got enough money. But you know, as you know, sometimes you can have something on paper saying, no, you've got enough money, you know, but 12 months down the line, it's a different case altogether. So that's why, for me, I know that people are going to point to say, but TTM has already has Opa Manyisa, who was one of the highest earners at Sundowns, and they've got Joseph Malungwane, who's coming from, who's coming from Chiefs, and you know, they pay there. But also consider that these are players who are not playing for the whole season. So it's obvious that they'll be taking salary cuts, you know, to get there. Also because maybe they were going to struggle to get a team because they have not been playing, they've been injured. So that's why TTM, I don't see them getting some of the core Bidvest players.
I remember there was a story also about Agin Munganga, who also had an issue about his salary. It was Masibusane Zongo also, who had an issue about his salary. So I think we'll have to have a look and see when the new season does start, because you know the TTM is campaigning now in the playoffs, is going to be known as Kukuni FC. It's another team completely. And the one that is at Business Vets at the moment will start campaigning in the MTN8 as the start of the season.